Modern Call of Duty, the subject of this video essay series. Considered by many to have started in 2007 with the launch of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, it quickly cemented itself as the basis for what every shooter going forward would be held against. In the realm of first-person shooter games, this has happened many times before. The first being Doom, largely setting the groundwork of what many would call the basis of the FPS and what developers would strive for. Then again with Quake, and again with Half-Life. COD 4 was part of a two-sided coin with the Halo franchise. Halo was already on the scene with its Halo Combat Evolved in Halo 2. Modern first-person games hail back to both Halo 3 and COD 4 for how they would be judged on what an FPS video game should be. The waves that the year of 2000 did for the FPS genre are still felt today, although somewhat waned and seen through to the end of their expected life. Other giants of innovation have come through, and the Call of Duty franchise has had plenty of rising and falling actions through the many entries. But when credit is due, it should be praised. The entry of Call of Duty 4 is certainly worthy of said praise. If I were to give a rating out of 10 in the modern context, COD 4 would suffer, as we now expect more from the series. But back in 2007, I would have said this was easily one of my top 5 games of all time. But who gives out ratings on a base 10 scale now? Do I look like IGN or something? What I am going to do is walk through the campaign of COD 4 and talk about the individual missions. At the end, I will give them an assigned rank of how I liked them on a 15-point scale, from S+ down to D-, and then F if the mission is actually that bad. Spoilers, COD 4 doesn't have any missions that I feel are an F rank. At the very end, I'll tabulate everything, and we get to see how Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare ranks in on its individual acts and finally overall as a complete game. That's right, this entire series is just a giant tier list, baby. Now, let's get started.
What the hell kind of name is Soap?
Good news first, the world's in great shape. We've got a civil war in Russia and 15,000 nukes at stake.
Just another day at the office. And the bad news?
We've got a new guy joining us today. Fresh out of selection. His name's Soap.
We begin our journey as a member of the British SAS, one Soap McTavish. We take control as a man named Gaz tells us to pick up a rifle.
Take one of the rifles from the table.
This is just the training section that largely every Call of Duty game runs you through to get yourself familiar with the controls. After a demonstration that we can shoot through some walls and that our fruit killing skills are remarkable,
Your fruit killing skills are remarkable.
we are told to head over to Captain Price in the other hangar. In the remastered version, you can actually take an optional training exercise going over explosives. It is a little more than just throwing frag grenades through windows and planting C4 on a car, but it was not in the original 2007 release, so its addition is a rather fun one. If you chose to do or skip the optional training though, it all remains the same. You go to the hangar where Price and other members of the SAS are. He tells you to go to the top of the ladder and get ready to run through a shoot house on which we will be timed. The shoot house is made to represent what the close quarters of a ship will be like, one that we will soon be seeing, and that we have to do it as fast as possible. We quickly put our skills from before to use as we run through the training exercise. At the end, depending on how quickly and accurately you performed, the game will give a suggested difficulty that it believes you should play on for the rest of that campaign. You can choose to ignore this though and select any difficulty that you choose. Once the difficulty has been selected, you are free to run the shoot house again or go over to where Captain Price is with the other SAS members and begin the briefing for your next mission.
Gentlemen, the cargo ship mission is a go. Wheels up at 0200.
This is a decent training mission to get new players introduced to the controls. And with what at the time was an innovation in gameplay back in 2007, shooting through walls to try and get to the bad guys, if I were to rate this, I would give it a B-.
Bravo team, the intel on this op comes from our informant in Russia. There is a small crew and a security detail on board. Rules of engagement, sir. Crew expendable.
The first real mission that you get to play is Crew Expendable. The shoot house from before has supposedly prepared you for these events, and you, along with the other members of the SAS, assault a cargo ship in the Bering Sea. You fast rope down, take down the crew, and have a pretty easy time of shooting drunk or asleep sailors on the ship. When you get to the bow of the ship, you are met with crew returning fire, but it is handled by the guns on the very helicopters you just came from. If this was a stealth mission, it is no more.
I'll have to keep this for close encounters.
Not much more is to be said. You fight your way down into the ship, kill your way to the cargo hold, and find the container.
Shit! Bravo 6, come in. Bravo 6, what's your status?
This is Call of Duty, son. The ship was hit with explosives and now it's sinking with you on it. It's time that we left.
On your feet, soldier! We are leaving!
And we get to walk our way through one of the many set pieces that help to cement Call of Duty where it is today. These set pieces are the sections that Michael Bay decided to pop into the office and led the team for the day. And much like a lot of Michael Bay films, they are extremely simplistic in what they are actually asking the player to do. But it doesn't matter because it's a set piece. You aren't supposed to think or ponder on why it's happening. It just happens and you smile. So you walk/run your way back through the ship and hop onto the helicopters that arrive just in time. As for my ranking on this mission, I have to say it is a decent one. Nearly all of what the game asked us to do in the previous training mission in FNG was on display here. It helped to set a tone for what we should be expecting for the rest of this campaign of stealth at the beginning that devolves into straight up firefights, and then a non-combative set piece at the end. Solid B.
There will be blood and death before the end.
Continue tracking.
And right after we finish the set piece, we are met with another. However, this one is not nearly as explosive and you literally just sit through it. It is simply a cutscene in the game where you get to have the smallest amount of camera control. We are President Al-Fulani and are being dragged through a courtyard and thrown in the back of a car with two men in the front seat. We are powerless as they drive through the streets, witnessing the killing and butchering of civilians, supposedly our own. Eventually, we are dragged out of the car and tied to a post, where we see a man with one arm hand another man a pistol. These two men are the primary bad guys of this game, and the one who shoots us in the head is Al-Assad. I'm not the biggest fan of this type of storytelling. It takes all agency away from the player and makes them feel powerless. Although, in the context of what is happening, it does a decent job of getting the tone across for the late Al-Fulani. Whenever I come back to COD4, I usually skip these types of missions. I'm not a fan of just having the game walk you through a visual set piece that you have absolutely no agency over. It is a complete dog walk and we are the dog. For the further context of the game, this was released in 2007, 6 years into the US's deployment of forces to the Middle East and nowhere near the end of its occupation. This feels like a slight revisionist history of giving the US an actual militarized force to go against instead of the hidden one that was handed out. It helps to set up the events of this game, but all this could have just been a mission brief at the same time and saved us from the dog walk. D-. Felt like lazy story development and unneeded participation from the player.
Plant some claymores in front of the door, then get their attention.
But in less than 3 hours, codename Nikolai will be executed.
We are once again playing as Soap, a member of the SAS, along with Captain Price and Gaz. Our task is to find and retrieve Nikolai, the informant within the ultra-nationalist group in Russia, before he is executed. So, we go through the Caucasus Mountains. It's a stealth mission in the beginning, so we creep our way through a few houses, killing members of the ultra-nationalists along the way, while trying to keep a low profile. That is until we are told by Gaz to go plant a claymore in front of a door.
Plant some claymores in front of the door, then get their attention.
Shortly thereafter, we meet up with the loyalist Russians who are helping us out and have to go give our sniper support from the cliffs above. We do and eventually feel like the Russians are stringing us along as Nikolai is inching closer and closer to being executed. Gaz beats it out of camera.
Final assault has already begun. With a little bit
Enough sniping! Where is the informant?
And then we make a break for Nikolai. There are very few moments in this mission that I would say stand out. Most of it, we are out of harm's way on a cliff, sniping enemies that won't even shoot back at us. But the end of this mission is great. We find the house where Nikolai is. Gaz goes and cuts the power, and we get to use Nogs to go through the house, killing ultranationalists as they stumble around in the dark. Again, no real danger here, but it is a fun moment. As we are leaving, Nikolai asks what the Americans are doing and if their assault has started. Then explains that they are making a huge mistake and that they will not find Al-Assad there.
They will never take Al-Assad alive.
This is unfortunately a somewhat average mission in its pacing. The sniping section in the beginning is just shooting fish in a barrel, and the few moments where we do engage on actual grounds with the enemy are sparse and short-lived. I'd give it a C-.
Jackson, take point.
After our little stint with the ultranationalists in the mountains, we take our first foray as the USMC portion of this campaign in the Middle East. We take the role of one Sergeant Paul Jackson in the Marines, and we are assaulting a location to find Al-Assad. Where we were SAS operatives going in quietly through the Caucasus Mountains, we are going in heavy as the Marines. It's the same old for Call of Duty though. We work our way through buildings and tight streets as the Marines try to find Al-Assad, with it all culminating in assaulting a TV broadcast station where military intelligence shows Al-Assad to be broadcasting from. However, you might have noticed that this is only like the 4th mission, so they have to be wrong, and Staff Sergeant Griggs says it best.
Score 1 for military intelligence.
I actually do enjoy Charlie Don't Surf. While it does not contain any major set pieces, I think the structure of the levels keeps it interesting. Moving through the streets where enemies can be on ground level or above on the roof lines, the combination of tight corridors, enemies splitting our attention not just on the horizontal plane but also the vertical one. This is what I would hold as Call of Duty's bread and butter. It is certainly a winning formula that has been continued through shooters even today and helped put Call of Duty at the front end of the pack instead of near the rear. In terms of rating, I would actually give this a decent B+.
Jackson, pick up the javelin so you can take out those tanks.
Today, U.S. Marines began to push into the city where Al-Assad is making his last stand.
Bravo 6, we have an Abrams dead in the water. Call sign, Warpig.
Tell Warpig to stand by. We're on our way.
After missing out on capturing Al-Assad at the TV station, we jump forward in time to a night mission. An M1 Abrams tank has been incapacitated by the opposing force, and we are tasked with making our way there and assisting them while they repair the asset. We quickly get ambushed on the highway and have to fight our way through the streets and through a building, then become pinned down from enemies on the overpass above. While nothing in this mission is a great set piece, and I think that it does not do the tight corridors and elevation differences as well as Charlie Don't Surf, it does bring with it a mini set piece when we get told to use a javelin missile launcher to take out enemy tanks on the overpass ahead of us. When this happened, it was one of the first times that we got to actually see the use of a javelin in the mainstream, and it was cool. The end of this mission has us taking a defensive position and fighting back the opposing force in the middle of a bog while trying to defend the tank that has been immobilized. The bog section, I think, is rather boring and unfortunately one of the larger sections. We spearhead through and have to fight off the enemy from some elevated vantages, but they have so many RPGs and so many grenades get thrown at our feet, it unfortunately becomes a little bogged down. Up until the actual bog section, I was leaning at this being a B-. However, due to the extended bog section, which can turn into a war of frustration if you don't hit the enemies just right to break up their constant use of explosives on us, it drops down to being a straight C level.
Nikolai, we're taking him to the Safehouse in Hamburg. ETA, 0700 hours, out.
We take a break from the Middle East and get back in the boots of Soap McTavish. We begin in a helicopter, the same one that we extracted Nikolai in. However, we are not in it for very long as a missile gets locked on and we go down. We wake up with both pilots dead.
Paulson and both pilots are dead, sir.
Bugger.
And being told that we need to get to the secondary extraction.
Extraction point's not far from here. Let's move out.
And a AC-130, our beloved, is en route but needs time to get there.
An AC-130, eh? Haven't worked with one of those in a while.
This mission aims for us to be stealthy through it. Enemies are out there searching for us and outnumber us so much that it would be suicide to try and take them head on. But this is a late aughts Call of Duty title, so stealth is like using a hammer rather than a wrecking ball to tear down a wall.
Let's top these bastards before they kill the old man.
We fight our way through farms, making a lot of noise along the way, because honestly, automatic gunfire and explosives going off tend to do that kind of thing. We eventually make our way past all the farms, take down a helicopter that has been stalking us the entire way.
Fire again! Let's fight to the test!
Bloody nice shooting this, so.
And get to a highway to see an enemy tank rolling down it. But this is at the same time that we are told that the AC-130, our beloved, has entered the airspace. We hear a thunderous boom, and seconds later, the entire highway explodes. This, I feel, almost has the same structure of Crew Expendable and does not ask us to do anything too different. The farms, I don't feel, make for an interesting set piece to battle in, and this is the first mission where dogs become our enemy. Video games. Don't do this. I know dogs are used plenty in combat, and they are very effective with drawing attention away from the man with a gun. But stop making us kill them. It feels bad. C-, because of the dogs, man.
Yeah, good kill. I see lots of little pieces down there. Wildfire, we are moving up the road towards a town to the east. Confirm you have a visual on us. Got eyes on friendlies. Crew, do not fire on any target marked by a strobe. Those are friendlies.
And now we are playing as an AC-130, our beloved. This is about the safest mission that you can be in a Call of Duty game. It is, for better or worse, a on-rails turret section. All that we are asked to do is engage enemies with our choice of a 25, 40, or 150 millimeter gun. On paper, if you take away the AC-130, our beloved, this is one of the most boring missions to do when put to paper. But in practice, back in 2007, woo, baby!
That's a hit. Hot damn! Boom! Oh, that's gotta hurt. Please engage all of those. Personnel right there. Take them out of the source. Clear a path for our guys. Personnel on the roof of that U-shaped building. U-shaped building. Rolling in. Target reset.
This was the first time that this was put into a video game. It was fun. It was new. It was amazing. This entire mission, I think, can be considered a set piece. The destruction that you could do was unparalleled with anything at the time, and you felt amazing raining death from above. This is and will always be the mission that made this fun. Once you unlock the arcade mode in COD4, definitely come back to this one and play it and see how high your score can get, because damn, oh baby, it gets fun. Even though I will dock other missions like this one for what it does, putting the player on rails and posing no real danger to us as the player, I can't do that with this one. It is so damn good, and I think still holds up today. Solid A+.
Roger that, Bravo 6. Are we there yet?
Heavy fighting continued throughout the night as U.S. Marines continued to push towards the capital city in pursuit of Ghillied Up.
After saying goodbye to the AC-130, our beloved, we head back to the Middle East as Paul Jackson in War Pig. The Abrams is fixed, and we get to help escort it through the streets away from the bog. I like this mission, but not during the typical playthrough of the campaign. The first time through, this mission can certainly get aggravating, especially when played on the higher levels of difficulty. The enemies are holed up and it can get a little difficult to actually move forward enough to cut off their reinforcements. If you did not know, the way that Call of Duty works is that you have to fight your way up to where the enemies actually are. Otherwise, they will continually keep coming out of the closet in a never-ending line of gunfire. So we make our way down the street, going from house to house, clearing them of hostiles. And once we get to the end of the street, we say goodbye to callsign Warpig as it destroys a tank for us. And fly off in a helicopter. It's a short and sweet mission with a bit of a lopsided environment, making it an actual struggle to move forward, which in turn makes the player become more engaged than just the simple firefights in the streets. It doesn't split us vertically, and the objectives are very straightforward, but it is a Call of Duty game, and that is what we bought our ticket for. B-.
We're going down.
Looks like we're rolling in with everything we got. We get Al-Assad, we end this war right here, right now. Lock and load, Marines.
In the next mission, we are briefed that we have a possible fix on Al-Assad in the city, and that he might also have a quirky little nuke in the city as well with him. So we are greeted by an opening much like Charlie Don't Surf, with us in a helicopter as we see dozens of others fly into the city to assault it and find Al-Assad. We are on a Mark 19 mounted gun on the helicopter and get to rain death from above on the enemy armor and RPGs on the rooftops. It's a bit of a turret section, but eventually we are tasked with helping recover Marines that are pinned down. So we land, fight our way through the city, and get to our boys and get back to our helicopters. Once on, we are advised that a nuke was actually found in Al-Assad's palace, and it's time to leave.
SEAL Team 6 has located a possible nuclear device at Al-Assad's palace to the west. NAS teams are on the way. Until the device is verified safe, all forces are to fall back to the east. Over.
But not before one of our beloved Cobras are shot down and crash in the streets.
We're going down.
We initiate search and rescue to get the pilots back, but are warned that should the nuke go off, we are not going to be outside of the blast zone. Further, we only get 90 seconds to get to the pilot and get them back on the helicopter. The faster you move in this section, the easier it becomes. That is because the enemies that you meet on the street are not starting off looking at us, but rushing towards the crashed Cobra. A nice little touch. And if you kill them and get to the crashed helicopter fast enough, you don't actually have to engage with the enemy reinforcements at all. Once we get the pilot on board, we boogie our way out of Dodge. The radio chatter says that we are basically fucked though, that the nuke was real and it is planned to detonate. A giant explosion detonates, creating a massive shockwave and fireball. Our helo gets hit, loses control, and we go down. This is what I like to see in a mission. There is a nice variation to what is expected from us, the player. Even though we are on a turret for a decent part of this mission, it is a good turret that has real power behind it. If there is one thing that I think Call of Duty 4 did right, is that no enemy was ever a bullet sponge. 1 or 2, maybe 3 shots from any weapon, and they go down. Solid B+ for this mission.
Something has happened.
The next brief, we are met with a satellite image of the city and the nuclear explosion, as well as a list of hundreds of names scrolling by of US forces killed by the blast. We zoom back to Sergeant Jackson. He is hurt and in the helicopter. We crawl our way out of it and fall to the ground, watching as a mushroom cloud rises in the distance. We fall, light overtakes us, and the next mission brief confirms that we were killed in action. This game just detonated a nuclear device by a terrorist, something that has thankfully not been replicated in the real world. This is how you really know that the shit has hit the fan with Call of Duty. They just detonated a nuke, something completely unheard of and which holds serious consequences. In the end, back on the game, this is just another dog walk, but where I disliked that in the Coup, I don't mind it here. And that is simply because we are not asked to simply sit and do nothing and have the game shove the exposition into our faces. Here, we are given the opportunity to actually move and look around where we want, absorbing the atmosphere and the setting along with the radiation that the game just set before us. It is also short, very short, less than 2 minutes short, for not taking away all player control, giving us enough time to absorb ourselves in what happened without overstaying its welcome. I have to rate this section a good B.
I want his name.
The man is a coward, Captain Price. Al-Assad would never sacrifice himself.
Nikolai assures us that Al-Assad is a coward and would not have detonated the device if it meant he also would have died in the explosion. Back as the SAS, we go to Azerbaijan to assault Al-Assad's safe house.
Guys, assemble a team. We're going to Azerbaijan. Yes, sir. I hear it's lovely this time of the year.
Working with the Russian loyalists, we fight our way up a small hill and through the enemy ultranationalists. We are given access to an attack helicopter we call in periodically to provide air support for us. But the air support is rather lackluster, I found, simply because of how long of a delay it has between calling it in and it actually arriving. We search multiple buildings looking for Al-Assad and eventually make our way to a farm at the top of the hill. We take Al-Assad alive, and then Captain Price begins interrogating the man to find out who gave him the nuke. After taking a call from Al-Assad's personal phone, he then puts a bullet in the man's head, and we are told who was on the phone.
Who was that, sir?
Zakhaev. Imran Zakhaev.
The pace of this mission is fast. Coming off of what just happened, it needed to be. It also introduced to us calling in air support, which was a nice little bit of spice to the usual gameplay. And while that air support I found was lackluster, it still was a welcomed one that you chose how much to interact with. This mission also gave us good progression in the plot without taking up too much time, and also sold that Captain Price is not a friendly man when you piss him off. For a rating, I'll give this one a solid B.
50,000 people used to live in the city. Now it's a ghost town.
Price briefs us that the man on the phone was one Imran Zakhaev, an old arms dealer that he was sent out on a mission to assassinate when he was just a lieutenant. We go back in time and take the boots of Lieutenant Price in the middle of Ukraine, right outside of Pripyat. This mission is one of the few that everyone calls back to when they discuss COD4, and for good reason. It is a mission that takes its time to build up, to do some actual storytelling, and create an atmosphere to what we are actually going to be doing. We are side by side with one Captain McMillan. Both of us are wearing ghillie suits to blend in with the environment. And that is because the first part of this flashback is actually meant to be played as stealthy as the game will allow us. We are not engaging the opposing force at every turn.
Enemy patrols dead ahead. Stay low and move slowly. Will be impossible to spot in our ghillie suits.
Instead, we are taking them on one or two at a time and doing so in a slow and methodical fashion.
Target eliminated. Top them. Don't fire on the two by the lorry. We'll have to take them out at the same time. Wait for me to get into position.
Our objective is to get to the rally point without alerting the entire enemy forces that we are there. At one point, we are literally crawling prone on the ground in the middle of the field, staying as still as we can as tanks and dozens of enemies walk right past us. This entire mission, much like that of our beloved AC-130, is a set piece of a mission. With its change of pace from the hectic gunfights and actual buildup of atmosphere, it's truly a wonderful experience of what Infinity Ward could do and what should be expected from them. We make our way through the forces and into the city, taking position on top of a hotel that will overlook the meeting place. We ready ourselves to take out Imran Zakhaev. This, along with our beloved AC-130, are what people talk about when they talk about COD4. This entire mission gave a nice break from the pace that has been building and building from the previous missions. And I think this break in pace was executed at the correct time. We were sprinting, and now we fell back into a light jog to catch our breath. And at the end of this mission, we came to a nice, relaxed, walking pace. It does not tire the player out on a casual playthrough, and it was a smart decision for doing this. Due to that, I will give this mission an A-.
Down, I think I saw his arm fly off.
On the roof with a 50 cal, the good old M82, McMillan tells us that at these distances, we have to compensate for not just the wind, but the variable humidity and the curvature of the earth, or the Coriolis effect.
Keep in mind variable humidity and wind speed along the bully's flight path. At this distance, you'll also have to take the Coriolis effect into account.
A fun little note about this mission: in the remastered version that I am using for this playthrough, we can actually snipe one of the cars at the meet that holds a future bad guy and a good guy. After taking the shot and blowing the arm off of Zakhaev, we are found out and we have to get the hell out of Dodge.
It's time to move.
We rappel down the roof and run through the city streets, fighting our way to our extraction point. McMillan gets injured after the both of us shoot down an enemy hind coming at us. And we end up having to carry him most of the way to the extraction point while also fighting off the enemies that are now searching for us. We get to an abandoned amusement park area and set up an ambush and have to hold out with McMillan while our extraction helicopter gets to us. While there are certainly sections that I think went on a little long, the extraction felt more drawn out than it needed to be, honestly. We were asked to change up the style a good bit. I'll give this mission a B. Once done though, we jump back to the present with this new bit of context tucked away in our heads.
Every ultra-nationalist psycho in Zakhaev's pocket is about to show up on our doorstep, coming to claim all Assad.
Or what's left of him.
We are back in the village in Azerbaijan, and now the ultra-nationalists are coming to kill us. We are told in the briefing that we set up defenses along the hill we fought up the previous night, and we are to hold out for our extraction, where the last mission was a stellar set piece. I would also call this mission an amazing action set piece. With limited friendlies and untold amounts of opposing force coming for us, we make a hell of a last stand. Between hopping on a minigun from a crashed helicopter to mow down the incoming forces, to dodging mortar fire and changing the topography with the planted C4 explosives along the cliff, this is an exhilarating time of a mission. As we get pushed further and further and further back up the hill, we eventually are told that our extraction can't make it due to the SAM sites littering the mountains. We have to then fight our way back down the very hill we were pushed up. And furthermore, we are on a time limit to do so, or else we will be left behind. We make it to the extraction helo and hear a familiar voice from our time as a Marine, with one Staff Sergeant Griggs being part of our extraction forces. Using the explosives, the part with the minigun, shooting down helicopters with Stinger missiles, and calling in bombing runs. This is what I like from my big action set pieces, and he delivers in spades. The only part that loses me is actually Griggs showing up. Feels a little lumped in. I feel like the core might be a little bit more segmented when dealing with this kind of thing, but it's a video game, so I only get to read so much into that. The mission in the game is still a great one and gets an A- from me.
Daddy's boy.
Zakhaev's son, commander of the ultra-nationalist forces in the field. Rotten apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The loyalist camera has got a location on the kid.
And the little punk'll know how to find Zakhaev.
The sins of our fathers.
Ain't it a bitch?
We make a plan to go after Imran Zakhaev by targeting his son, who happens to be the commander of the ultra-nationalist forces, and we are working with the Russian loyalists, once again. The mission begins at night as we are making our way towards a gas station that is set up as a military checkpoint by the ultra-nationalists. We take out the guard post and disguise ourselves as ultra-nationalists and wait for the convoy to arrive. A few hours pass and the convoy arrives. Once we confirm that the son is there, we take out the convoy and attempt to capture him. Chaos ensues, and the guard tower we are in collapses, and Junior begins to fucking bolt. We run after him and fight against the ultra-nationalists that are in the city while trying to capture Junior alive. Eventually, we make our way to an apartment building that he ran inside of. We fight through the corridors up to the roof and have him cornered. But before we can restrain him, he pulls a Private Pile or Kurt Cobain, whatever one you're more comfortable with, and ends himself right there. With Junior dead, we are out of options of what will happen next. Not gonna lie, I don't care much for this mission. Feels a bit meh in my opinion. I'll give it a C+ though, as it did move the plot along and sets up for what is about to happen.
It's quite simple. Either we retake the launch facility or we won't recognize the world tomorrow. Green light to Halo. Charlie team go.
With his son dead, we listen to Imran Zakhaev give a small speech about how his country, its leaders, have betrayed everyone. He takes control of a missile silo in Russia, and we have to go after him and stop him from doing anything rash. We parachute in, but Griggs gets blown off course and we have to go find him. He was captured by the ultra-nationalist forces, so we mow our way through them and then, with the help of some C4, take down a power line. We make our way through the Russian base, fighting the ultra-nationalists as we go. Eventually, we get to a road that leads to the missile silos and meet up with an American sniper team providing overwatch for us, and discuss our next plan when we see not one, but 2 missiles launch. I'm also somewhat nonplussed about this mission as well. The action sections were a bit meh and largely uninteresting in how they were actually laid out. The nukes actually being launched is hilarious to me. I feel like the Russians, of all people, might have a little bit more security and precautions with their nuclear warheads so that a wronged arms dealer couldn't launch them. But I don't know anyone even remotely knowledgeable in this field. So maybe Infinity Ward knows something that I don't. Still, I gotta give this mission a C. It does enough to be decent, but it treads so close to Crew Expendable, the very first mission we played in this game, that it ends up leaving a blandish taste in my mouth.
06, we're still working with the Russians to get the launch codes. We should have them shortly. Keep moving. Out.
Imran Zakhaev just launched 2 ICBM missiles with nuclear payloads, and they are headed to the west coast of the United States of America. We are informed that should they hit, it will kill an estimated 41 million people, and World War III will have begun. Call of Duty and set pieces. They power scaled very quickly. We rushed into the base with people sporting some rather large construction saws on their backs from somewhere. And we have to fight through the remaining ultra-nationalist forces defending the base. The fight to the base is a hard one. We have to employ the use of smoke grenades to close the distance towards enemy armor to plant C4 on them. And there are endless amounts of the ultra-nationalists between us and the bunker with the launch controls. But eventually, we make it to the silos and rappel our way into the base. The layout of this map, while being on the shorter side, gets points for introducing us to tackling enemy armor head on instead of on the back of a gunship or behind a Mark 19 grenade launcher. With this variety, I would say it earns itself up to a B-.
Negative, sir. But you can try pulling it if it makes you feel better. Cheeky bastard.
It's a
that's where you'll need to upload the abort codes to destroy the missiles in flight. Guys, cover the exit in the security station. So Griggs and I will head for launch control.
Roger. Come on, what's the bad news?
The bad news is we're still trying to get those abort codes. Over. The hell with it. We'll give it our best shot. Out.
Not much more to be said here. We are on a timer for this mission as the missiles need to be destroyed before they hit the west coast. The Ultranationalists actually put up quite the fight. However, this mission I feel has the same problem that Warpig did, but without any of the verticality that actually helps that mission stay interesting. While the set piece of having 2 nukes on their way to the west coast is a Michael Bay level of set piece, the actual gameplay through this part is what I would say is on the lower end of Call of Duty. A bit early in my scripting process, but I'll just say this is nothing more than a solid C level mission. Eventually, we make it to the war room and enter the abort codes and stop nuclear Armageddon kicking off too early. But no rest is had for the wicked as Imran Zakhaev escapes and leaves the area, and we have to go after him.
It's just too hot, man. But room temperature? Please, a beer should be ice cold.
A lager maybe, or a glass of water like you drink, and a pint of stout.
I'm gonna have to school y'all both when we get back stateside.
Yeah, well, either way, we're stopping in London first. And I'm buying.
Well, at least the world didn't end. Hit it.
Our mission brief tells us the enemy forces are closing in on us and we have to leave now. But a little bit of character chatter between Griggs and Gaz still brings a little bit of a smile to our faces. When the mission starts though, it starts right away. We are on the back of a truck speeding down the highway and we are almost immediately shot at by the enemy forces. This is an on the rails section, but with all the explosions, I'll give it a pass. We try to take out a hind and miss all the shots. It's okay though, because it decides that shooting us is no fun and just decides to blow up the bridge that we're going across.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh shit, he's about to take out that bridge! Stop the bloody truck!
We almost die, climb back up the bridge, and fight off forces for as long as we can until extraction hopefully gets to us. Command tells us we are pretty much fucked and they won't get there in time. Good old Kamarov with the Loyalists has our back and is on the way. Too bad though, as we are pinned down and won't make it by the time he arrives. After fighting off Ultranationalists for a little bit, a tanker behind us explodes. We have the senses knocked out of us, and as we come to, we watch as Griggs pulls us out of fire, only to get shot in the face. We turn to see Price, also injured and very dazed from the explosion, and when we turn back, we watch as Imran is, for some reason, on the ground walking towards us. He shoots Gaz in the head and begins walking up to us to probably do the same when the hind that is covering him explodes. We turn back to Price. He slides over a pistol to us and we kill Imran Zakhaev as he is extracted due to his hind blowing up from Kamarov's men coming onto the scene. As we are being medevaced away, we watch as Price dies on the bridge as Kamarov is trying to resuscitate him.
The Russian government released a statement today confirming a series of nuclear missile tests in central Russia.
The set piece at the very end is what sells this mission. The highway chase, the bridge being taken out, and finally shooting Imran Zakhaev in his fucking head. That is what sells this mission. We end on a bittersweet note, but with war games, I feel like that is how it should be. Like black coffee, you enjoy it when you drink it, but it isn't necessarily the easiest thing to drink. But it's still enjoyable to those that have the taste for it. This mission gets a B+. And that's the end of it.
We're going deep and we're going hard.
Surely you can't be serious.
I'm serious. And don't call me Shirley.
One last mission before the end, And that's Mile High Club. We are special forces on a Russian plane. We don't know who we are, it's not told. A little bit of foreshadowing there if you know where all this goes in the future titles though. It's a mad sprint against the clock to make our way through the plane as quickly as possible, killing all of the enemies along our way to our final objective. At the very end, we kill the last bad guy who's holding a hostage at gunpoint, and then we leap out of the plane as it's about to explode. And as we're falling, we see it explode. This entire mission gets an A rank from me. It is wonderful and extremely fun to replay over and over again, trying to outdo your time or a friend's time. It brings with it a nice challenge and keeps you moving and sprinting right up until we jump out of the plane. I can't go higher than an A. The mission is fun and short, and the dressing around it is very fun and thrilling. But it is side content. It's front-loaded side content for sure, but it is no more than side content. So, solid A from me.
Someone's on the bomb. If we don't have much time, we've got to go up now. Roger that. Prepare to breach.
After completing the game, we are informed that we have now access to cheats that are unlocked depending on how many pieces of enemy intel we found throughout the campaign. It's those little laptops that we found. And we also unlocked the arcade mode. The arcade mode is a fun mode to spend a little bit of time with. You're scored on the enemies you kill with more points for headshots, and score multipliers apply depending on the level of difficulty you are playing on. But it is nothing really that special, like some of the other extra modes that will be bundled together with Call of Duty games in the future. With the cheats and arcade mode, I'll give these a decent rating of C+. Nice to have, and before we really didn't know any better, but no one is going to come back to COD4 for these modes, so they end up scoring somewhat low. However, the combination of turning enemy heads into melons and having the enemies turn into a pile of tires when they die is pretty hilarious. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare is a fun game. Coming back to it in 2023, it's certainly not up to par with the more current Call of Duty titles though. It most certainly shined brighter than the previous entries in Call of Duty, and even shines brighter than some of the entries that will come later. It helped to define what we should expect from the very least from a Call of Duty title, and I will say is still a good baseline for other games to be compared against. So with all that said, this is how it looks. Our prologue earned itself a C rank. Act 1 earned itself a B-. Act 2 earned itself a B. Act 3 earned itself a C+. And our epilogue, along with the bonus content, earned a B. That gives our overall ranking for Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare a B- on our tier list when tabulated with math and all that. A solid entry for sure, and right about where I would have placed it. On a gut feeling, I probably would have said maybe a C+, so I'll just go ahead and say B- and side with the math on this one. So I'm now off script. I don't really have anything planned out that I have to say, so I liked Call of Duty 4. It was a really good game, and I think that the tabulated scoring method that I have for it, it lands where it should. Again, right in that range of low B's, high C's is where it is. I think as we move forward, there is certainly going to be a lot of Call of Duty games that are going to score higher on it on the entire tier list. It's also going to have games that score quite a bit lower than it. If you like this video and want to see more or have any feedback that you would like to give for how I paced this out or how I made this video, please go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'm always open to be reading what anyone says. My main inspiration to make this kind of formatted video is mainly from the channels like Mandalore Gaming and Bricky, especially with Bricky with this kind of format. I really liked his style of video essays and wanted to try my own hand at it. So what better way in 2023 to start off with than Call of Duty? a series that I kind of have some relation to, but not really. I'm mainly more there for the single player content. I kind of fell off of any multiplayer, and I've never really been big into zombies, but we'll definitely try and take a look at the extra modes that come along with the others. Thanks again for watching to the end of this video. Go ahead and hit a like if you like this video, and subscribe if you're not, so that you can stay up to date for when I post my other videos in this series, analyzing and going through the rest of the Call of Duty games. There's 16 in total. Doing this in 2023 and right after the tail end of the disaster that the reboot of Modern Warfare 3 was. Whew, that's going to be fun to get to. Oh boy, that campaign was a piece of... Whew, boy. No spoilers ahead. No spoilers ahead.